Good evening and welcome to episode 69 of Let's Talk Possibility. It's the 8th of April and we're talking to Karen Hauptfleisch about using adventure to educate the youth of South Africa to take control of their environment, specifically around looking at conservation, which ultimately influences their future. Good evening and welcome to Let's Talk Possibility. My name is Eric Vermeulen and tonight exploring ideas, challenging our thinking and inspiring action with me is co-host Talana Simpson. How are you doing, Talana?
Good, thank you.
And our guest, Karen Hauptfleisch. Karen is an adventurer aiming to climb the highest peak in every African country, and to date she's asked me not to say conquered, but she's cleaned 30 of the 58 peaks. There are 28 to go. And Karen, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Karen, now, why did you start climbing mountains?
I know it was just for some reason I had this mind in 2002 to climb Kilimanjaro after knee op. And first of all, I loved every second of it, but I was totally appalled by all the rubbish on top. And I promised myself that I would create awareness by cleaning the highest mountain in every African country. So that is where the soap stands from, and it's for Sunrise on Africa's Peaks.
So your mission isn't just to climb the peaks. It's more an environmental mission.
Yes, and it's also the journey that's really important, because it's not like you go to the 7 summits and everyone knows where it is. In some of the countries, the people don't even know where it is. So it's really been challenging, some of them. The easiest ones was like the ones that the tourists normally go to, like Mount Kenya and Rwenzori, which is my favorite mountain.
Yeah, and where is that?
Uganda.
Okay. And so how do you select the peaks?
It depends, because I've got quite a lot of interesting stories. Like, for instance, you can go and Google Zambia's highest peak and you can ask 5 different people and you'll get 5 different answers.
So you did all 5 just to cover
No. I actually had to buy a 4x4 and I'm not a 4x4 enthusiast. But we got there and I measured every possible peak. And now people come and they say, where's the highest peak? And I'm sorry, there's no ways I'm going to just give that information away. But that was, like I said, it's the journey that counts. You would think this country is going to be easy, and the peak's going to be easy. And I think because I'm so impulsive, which is maybe a good thing, I don't normally know what's lying ahead of me. So in Senegal, you need to rent a vehicle, charter a vehicle when it's remote. So. Mm-hmm. We arrived there, and of course, when the people don't speak the language, it is a bit of a challenge.
Right.
And we got to this little koppie. And I got to the koppie, and here's this 10-meter boulder. And it's like, the only person that's been there was Gingham Fulham, and he's like Rambo. He's climbed the highest mountain in every African country, except now for Northern Sudan. And there was this little crack that I had to get in, and it sounds like nothing, but it was really, I don't know how I'm going to get on top. So my friend Alan, that traveled with me that time for 3 months, they got a bit of a branches and they put it in there, and I tried to get on top of their shoulders, which also didn't help, and I just, please, I don't know how I'm going to get up there, but I chimneyed up there. I waved the flag and I started rolling down, but as soon as I reached the top, I burst out in tears. I thought, you know what, Gingham is this Rambo. He would go to Angola and he would demine there for a year. Then he would go to the oil rigs. And I'm from the Free State. I mean, what did I do? It was just like, I don't know if I'm out of my league, but I did it. I left some skin behind.
So there've definitely been these kind of moments where you think, wow, maybe I've bitten off more than I can chew.
I promise you, a lot of times, and I think I'm really crazy.
And isn't that really what the essence of adventure is? Adventure, from the research I've done and so on, adventure is defined as any undertaking of which the outcome is uncertain. So is that why you do it?
Sometimes I think I don't know why I do it, but I've learned so much from I think, being out of my comfort zone. And it's places where people tell you, it's very unsafe. And for some reason, I don't know, I've always felt people would come into my life, like end up in a big taxi rank, and I don't even know what language they speak. And then someone would just I don't say angels or whatever, but they would come and show me, come there, or you don't know what the currency is, and things just work out. I've also realized, it's not getting to the mountain, it's the journey that counts. So
sort of you've said you're very impulsive, so I'm guessing you're not putting months of careful planning
into... How much planning goes into each climb?
No, fortunately I've had people, people that went traveling with me, and they would do the research, which I think is sometimes a good thing. And my friend gets very upset with me. He said, but I told you about the 10-meter boulder. And I said, well, maybe I didn't want to know about it. It's like in Uganda now. I mean, I just thought I could see myself as an adventurer over the glacier. It was really romantic for me. And we started off 5 people. And in the end, it was just me and the one guide. And I just said, we're going. And then, I don't know what I was looking at. The next moment, there's this 20-meter ice wall in front of me. And I thought, no. And I don't know if I prayed or saw more. I don't know what it was. But I got to the top. And it's like, then I started panicking. I thought, how am I going to get down? How am I going to get down? And it was, when we got down, I had the ice screws and everything there. I thought, you know what? It was so stupid, because if something happens to him, we're both dead. But it's also, it's when you get there and it's like, you've got a story to tell. I don't know, it's like, I think if everything just goes easy, it's like, I don't know.
Because, I mean, Talana, the flip side of that is I suppose the fact that so many people don't do things because they plan it to death. Yes, and they keep asking themselves, what if? And it's so refreshing to Karen, to speak to you and to say, well, I'm not bothered about all the what ifs. I'm packing my bag, I'm going. If I've got a boulder, if I've got to suddenly learn to ice climb in the space of 10 minutes, I'm going to do that.
Oh, that sounds great. It does sound like you just have the attitude of you'll deal with the obstacles as they come, which makes taking the first step and the second step on a journey much easier to get going. I think a lot of people do stagnate, and they're just so worried about obstacles, instead of waiting until they actually get to the obstacle.
And I think the other side of that, I suppose, what you learn from that ingenuity of being able to overcome each of those obstacles. And I mean, Corinne, you were talking about comfort zones a little bit earlier on. The more often you step out of your comfort zone, the bigger your comfort zone becomes. Yeah.
And the easier it becomes to step out again.
Yeah, the easier it becomes to step out, but also the bigger the challenges are that you can suit up to in sort of consequent adventures.
Yeah, I must have also learned a lot. The last trip I did was to Uganda. It was July, and then I was very fortunate to see the gorillas in Rwanda. It was really, really amazing. But I always, I was very quick to say, the poachers and things like that, they should be hanged. But I realized there, it's not about money. It was about survival. So I really have learned. See, there's Ubuntu in Africa, it's like really these people still caring for one another. So for me, it still is amazing to see how many good people there are.
And one of your big cares that you've been talking about is cleaning up the mountains, as you say. So what happens is, are you collecting rubbish, as you say, as you go along? I don't want to it sounds very practical, but in my mind, I'm trying to... climbing, rock climbing, there's so much gear, and now you're going to also, what are you going to do with all the rubbish?
If I can help it at all, I don't rock climb anymore. Okay, but
unless there's that boulder or the ice wall.
Yeah, but I just meant, I know for rock climbing, so I can imagine still in hiking, you've got your tent, your food, your whatever you're taking.
I think the worst was Mount Kenya, and there it's a rock climbing, I think, to get to Nidi and Batian, and the one there's a hut. And we climbed up, and like I said, I really had to overcome my fears. And there's a hut that someone took a long time to just drag up and everything. And I couldn't believe the amount of litter lying on top. And we're not talking about your casual hiker. We are talking about climbers. And then what happens is I won't walk past a piece of paper. And I think the porters and the guides just realized that. And then they started cleaning up. And they phoned for a vehicle to come and get this stuff. So I know it's not ideal, but I think, you know what, it's by creating awareness. In Uganda now, the last time, with all the camp, you get tourists on the mountains, and I really get so upset because they go, and for me the mountains are holy, and they just go and destroy the mountains. But what will happen is you'll start picking up papers, and you'll see the guides will start picking up papers. And then you tell them, but they've got a right to tell the tourists not to litter. And some of them can't believe it. I mean, it's like in Burundi, there was this big article about the UN ladies that went up to the highest mountain to, I don't know if it was for whatever course it was. And we got a bit lost there, which is not unusual for me.
Okay.
As soon as I get people that can navigate.
Hence the adventure, yeah.
And then later we just could follow the bottle trails, you know? And it's like people are not aware of what they're doing because I don't think anyone's going to do it on purpose. And that's what we need to teach the people. And it doesn't come easily because it's not you'll do it once and then you'll just create the awareness, but do it the second time. I mean, in Mount Kenya, I could only manage to bring one bag of litter from the top. But all in all, while we were hiking, 38 bags of litter on one mountain, you know?
But is the problem, though, not sociological? You know, there are all these campaigns, and I think that they have probably died down. I mean, in South Africa, I'm old enough to remember the ZB campaign and stuff like that. But we don't see too many of those anymore. Yet, there is this subconscious idea of, well, I certainly still have it, that you don't litter. The problem is when you go into nature and you see one bottle, now you have permission on a sociological level to leave your bottle as well. The next person comes, he sees two bottles, it becomes a third, a fourth. And so now the whole thing just kind of escalates. Yeah. So how do we get to the root of that? Because, and I mean, to be honest, as noble as it is, Corin, for you and your teams to, when you climb a mountain, pick up 38 bags of litter, that's a drop in the ocean. How do we kind of go to the root of that problem? How do we create the correct kind of consciousness?
You know, I think the kids are the future, you know, and it's about creating awareness. I mean, one of the things is when we do take the children out is we would be cleaning like whatever, you know, and they would pick up the papers. And I mean, there's a competition. They would actually go and steal some litter out of the litter bins, which is also, you know, it's a bit of cheeky.
As long as they recycle it.
But then the next moment you would give them like chips and they would just go and throw it away, you know, so they don't actually
throw it onto the floor.
They don't think about it. But that's where you tell them, you know, this is why you shouldn't litter. And I think the more you do that, you do make a difference. You know, we go and we get involved with a mountain club and, you know, other NGOs, and we would go and say, for instance, the pom-poms, we would go and, teach them about the pom-poms. So you're not making a difference you're not eradicating anything, okay? But I would then afterward get calls from the kids saying, have you seen the pom-poms on the voortrekker morning? So it's just about creating awareness.
But it's almost, you know, from what you've just told me on your camps where you get kids to clean up or to collect litter in rivers and in the veld and so on. But yet half an hour later, once you've given them chips, they'll discard the packet on the floor. It's almost as though there's no transference. For some reason, we're not making the connection between the stuff that we've just had to pick up that everyone else has dumped. When we dump it, it's just going to magically disappear? How do we get them to realize that what they do gives other people permission to do it?
You know, I think that is why it's good if we get the different groups with the different passions together. I mean, I can teach them about, you know, getting them out of their comfort zones and taking them to the mountains. But then you've got your environmental people, and they've got programs that's aimed for creating awareness. And I think that's where you can really make a big impact on them. When we have like Environmental Education Day, we partner with other environmental centres, and they've got the games that the kids play. You know, you must make it fun. We used to focus on the cleanups.
Yeah.
You don't get anything right there. But I mean, if you have like environmental games and things like that, you do make an impact on the kids. And maybe not the first time, but the second time, you know, I think it should be something that should be get all the schools involved, but in a fun way.
And I think there's also a role for adults to play in this, and it's by, you know, you lead by example. So you're saying you're conscious of litter because you were exposed to some of those campaigns, but there haven't been many campaigns. I think there's a lot of adults that just are not that conscious themselves about litter. I mean, you see people throwing things out the car just in suburbia, and it's...
But I must also tell you, it's not just negative, because I've seen people that actually use the dustbins.
Yes.
So, but that's also, you know, with us, when we take the children out, we get volunteers. And I mean, it's like they would throw things out. So it's not just the children you take out. I mean, it is...
So indirectly, you're educating the volunteers as well.
Yes.
Well, yeah, absolutely amazing. But I think still that, isn't it? I mean, if you look at our society, I mean, I was talking to one of the country's top economists last week, and he was saying, you know, the average South African family. And before he carried on, he said to me, listen, Eric, you've got to understand the average South African family isn't like we know a family. Average South African family is grandma, daughter, and 2 kids. Or three kids, all from different husbands. Now, if that's the average South African family, and the average family is fighting for survival, it sounds very altruistic to kind of get them to start thinking about the environment and conservation, and because they're just focused on survival. How do we, facing that challenge, how do we get people to understand, but the environment is your survival?
I think it's a tough question. Yeah.
But if you see about, I think I take my hat off for the Mondi guys. I call them Mondi guys. You know, the guys that come in with their trolleys and they start collecting things. And I think that's a start. You know, if you get paid for
Yeah, so if anyone who's listening doesn't know what you're talking about, we actually have guys in South Africa who come with their trolleys, as we say, and they collect all the rubbish, people's rubbish, but specifically the recyclable
stuff.
Tins and a lot of paper and cardboard. And then they go and sell it, I believe, and that's how they make often only enough just to get taxi fare home and a meal.
Yeah, but I
It's
mean,
not much,
for
but
me, it's a start. I don't
it
know how
is.
much, but I mean, it's creating jobs.
Yeah, it's...
And have you seen some of them? They're quite the Rasta and the bells on.
And I mean, a lot of those guys that I've encountered are actually, their attitude towards what they're doing is actually incredibly positive. It's not, you know, when you
But
speak
they feel
to
like
them,
they're
and
contributing.
yes,
They are.
because somehow they've made that link between what they're doing here has a bigger impact than just putting some cash in their pocket. And I think the reason we're facing the kind of environmental problems that we're facing is because a lot of people have got a very self-centered view of the world. So when I'm finished with this can or this packet, I can dump it because now it's not my problem anymore. But it soon becomes somebody else's problem.
But I also think it's awareness from the people littering. And I'm talking about your average household.
yeah.
I mean, first of all, there should be more recycle places, because I know of a lot of people that wants to recycle, but you're not going to drive 10 kilometers away, you know. And I know some of the shopping centers have got recycling things now.
But if you don't have a car, how do you recycle?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the
You
thing is, you
carry
should
your-
start with your own rubbish, you know. And I think there's no education about that, because I've learned something from a person, Stuart Martin. I mean, he doesn't throw anything away. He would wash the cheese plastic and things like that, you know, and that taught me something else. I just thought, you know, there goes the tins and there goes that. And there is a bit of awareness starting with the schools, which is also great, because by getting the kids involved, now the kids get points, you know, by the amount of recycled material they bring. And of course, the parents got to get involved because. So
Yeah,
that's
Because the
also
kids are asking.
creating awareness.
I saw an incredible little photograph a couple of weeks ago. Those cardboard juice containers, the 1.5 litre, 2 litre juice containers.
Tetra Pak?
Yeah, that looked like the old milk cartons. And the photograph I saw was 5 of those lying on their sides, and that they'd been cut open and they used as planting trays for a herb garden. And because they're cardboard plastic, so they're not going to, decay. And so someone's just cut them open and they're planting herbs for their herb garden
nice
outside the
little-
kitchen area.
For the seedlings, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so things kind of start through that going full circle. And still, I think the dichotomy, though, Corinne, in where you've seen it, people climbing mountains, mountaineers, they are by nature, they use nature to live their passion. And yet at the same time, they're dumping all their waste along the trail.
Seems so weird.
I want to pick up on something you said a little bit earlier, Corinne. You said that you were talking about several of your travel companions, and that on your one expedition was 3 months in West Africa. Now, William Shakespeare wrote many moons ago. He said, "Misery acquaints one with strange bedfellows." What can you tell us? What have you learnt, life skills wise, from your travel companions?
Oh, it's really difficult because traveling with someone, I think that's a big test. I think sometimes you must just keep quiet. Maybe, I don't know. And I also don't think it's very seldom that you get a travel companion that fits you. I don't think on my 3-month travel, I traveled with Alan Reynolds, and it was really hard, and I don't think anyone else would have done it. So I think you have to really be lucky to choose the right person. I mean, I've been traveling with someone that is like, this is it, the relationship's ended. So I don't know, it's difficult. And I also think you learn a lot about yourself, because I thought I was a 4x4 person. I'm not. I'm totally the opposite. Yes, so if I can use local transport, that's what I use.
Yeah. What do you mean when you say you thought you were a 4x4 person? In other words, driving to...
Before having the experience of 4x4, you thought you would like it.
Right, okay.
That's what I understand. And then once you've had the experience, you realize. But isn't that the beauty of experience? Isn't that why we go and try new things? I mean, you're always just about to taste something new, and because you don't know whether you're going to like or not until you actually have the experience, and then you've got an informed decision. Like know now for sure that you don't like 4x4s.
Yeah, another thing I also discovered was I really don't do well in the deserts. In Mauritania, it's like we got stopped every 10 kilometers to pay bribes, and you don't understand the language. And I was like, once on the trip, we left our luggage on the other side of the... it was just a very bad day traveling. We left our luggage on Mali side, and I had to go back and go back to the border on a motorbike. And I had 2 backpacks to carry, and I couldn't move. Okay, now I'm sitting behind this driver, and I couldn't move, and all I could see was the dead camels in the desert. And I thought, what, if they can't even make it, how are we going to make it? And it was like, I really suffered, so it is, how much can you take? But you don't die in the end.
And so how much have you taught yourself to take? Because from the sound of it, you're not someone who gives up. Or have
like
you
I said, I cried a lot. What am I doing here? I think there's a lot of, and I won't say it's bad experiences, because it's something that I've learned about myself. Of course, I do things to amuse myself when I really get depressed. Like I would do a headstand on top of Mauritania's highest mountain. But
cool.
I don't know. It is the experience. And if you really, I'm not saying suffered, but if you do get some challenging trips, those are the ones you remember.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They really forge your character.
Yeah.
And it was, if I haven't experienced the desert, I mean, after Mauritania, we went to Sierra Leone. It was like, and it was raining, and the energy of those people, and of course it was green. It was like jeepers, I'm in paradise, So I don't think I would have experienced Sierra Leone the way I did if I didn't go to the desert first.
And it's interesting the contrasts,
Yes.
how they kind of also add to each of the experiences.
Yeah.
I want to be a little bit philosophical quickly. And we've spoken about relationships and the people that you travel with. So I want to ask, along the lines of, if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it make a noise? So let's think about having an experience and you don't share it with someone. Have you still had the experience? Because that's what I find so fascinating, Talana. But we've had a number of adventurers and people on the show, and they all just, and like Karen, you just love talking about your experiences, and it's almost as though by sharing it with somebody else, you find real meaning in the experience.
I think you get to relive it in a way. You have the actual experience, so when you come back and you start telling someone else, it's like your brain goes there, and it's amazing thing with the brain is when you start thinking of something, you play that movie in your mind, you actually physically can feel what you're feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just seen how your state has changed, talking from deserts to the rain and green. So it's, I think part of it is reliving it. So I don't know what you would say.
Yeah, one of the saddest things about the trip is you really see how the people are really destroying the mountains. The mining industries are just, it's incredible. These World Heritage sites, and you can't get access to it because there's a mine there. And another thing was in Liberia, it was like, jeepers, these people were so happy to see someone's built, I don't know if I should say the country, built a road towards the mountain. But all along the way, they were felling the trees. And this road led straight to a sewing mill. It was like, and Alan just told me, you don't say anything. But it was like, it's heartbreaking what they're doing to the mountains. And what's really terrible is the locals think, cheapest, we're going to get something out of it. And what are they going to get? Nothing.
The road that they hardly use, probably.
Yeah, I mean, they'll put all the effort into building the road and destroying the environment around it, and then the road gets used for the
trucks.
The trucks, but it'll get used for the existence of the mine or the sawmill, and that's only a finite number of years. When that's closed down, what's next? And I mean, I see that in South Africa, where there are obviously those strict environmental policies, and mines are supposed to rehabilitate. No, they don't. And they just move on to the next one. What's going to be left for our kids, Karen?
I don't think there's going to be a lot left unless we tell them that they've got a right to stand up for themselves. I mean, you don't want to have your baby born in a rubbish dump, do you? And that's what's happening. So I really think the kids are the future. And I think we've got to, stop saying everything's negative, because there is some, if you have a look around, there's a lot of environmental NGOs that's
a lot of movements
doing something. I just think we must maybe get the adventure people, whatever, make it fun, because I really think if we get the different groups together, we can really make a big difference.
And I think you are making a difference with your organization. It's called soapkids.org, and it specifically is aimed at how do you describe it? Children who have come from a disadvantaged background or a
vulnerable children. Karen says,
thank you. So you're helping them because in those broken homes that they come from, they probably have less chance of getting access to their education and the chances for a bit of adventure, because they're in that, as you were talking, Eric, that survival mode. So I don't know if anything you want to say about that, but I think it's just amazing that besides your own personal passion of climbing the mountains yourself and cleaning them, is that you're actually reaching out to the children.
If someone asked me what's vulnerable, I think everyone's vulnerable. I mean, unless you've experienced nature, you're not even aware what's out there. And I mean, look at the kids of today. I mean, they don't go out. And I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying this is
it's the way the world lives. If you're born in the city, unless someone takes you out or you consciously know that you can go out of the city,
yes. So
how do you know there's another world?
unfortunately, we've got only so many resources. But I mean, it would be absolutely fantastic if we can get every person on this planet out there, you know. But I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just we need people to be aware of it. And I'm sure something can be done about it. But we had to choose, you know, who do we take?
Because you've just come back from a camp,
Yes.
a week-long camp. You had 60 kids, obviously during the school holidays and so on. But I mean, so that's 60 out of over 15,000 that you've already exposed to adventure and to nature.
Yes, yes.
I mean, 15,000 kids, 60 at a time. That takes some doing. But you've got a much loftier goal. You want to get 1 million kids.
Yes, and it's so doable, you know. You don't need a big piece of or a national park to go and take the kids to. You know, there's nice environmental games that you can teach them. I mean, you get the nice team building sports like that. And I mean, if everyone around every NGO around the school just goes and gives them time, they give their time, one Saturday, maybe 2 Saturdays a month. I mean, you can teach them a lot.
Absolutely. And as you say, it doesn't have to be 3 hours out of Pretoria or 3 hours out of Joburg. You know, the environment or, natural environment is all around us.
Yes.
We can
And
find
even parks. You can
urban
learn a lot
islands,
in a park.
little islands within urban areas, etc.
And also, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You know, the scouts and everyone, they've had great games, you know, forever. So it's just use some of the games, these fantastic ideas now how to reuse litter, you know. So you're not talking big money. You know, you need maybe 1 or 2 big corporates that's passionate about the children and nature, and they.
Absolutely. Passion for the
yeah.
environment,
I was going to say,
for adventure.
someone to make it happen.
Absolutely. Passion for the environment, for adventure, for getting out there, pushing your limits, getting out of your comfort zone and making it happen. Folks, this has been Let's Talk Possibility with our guest tonight, Karen Hauptfleisch. To find out more about her, go and have a look at www.soapkids.org or contact Karen on 083 975, I lie, 083 975 2700. From me, Eric Vermeulen, and my co-host Talana Simpson, good night and see you next time.